Hello and welcome back to the Connection Compass podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. To find out more about my work, please visit andrealevans.com. What if the patterns you've inherited aren't yours to carry? In this episode, we meet Shemaine Robinson, founder of Calming Minds, based in Manchester. Together, we explore healing generational trauma, reclaiming your voice, and coming home to who you truly are, breaking free from self-limiting beliefs, anchoring into your own truth, and stepping fully into your own power. Hello there. Hi, Shemaine. Welcome to the Connection Compass. I'm so grateful that you're here today and you've joined us for a conversation. Please, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do?
I'm Shemaine Robinson. I am a psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and event holder. I'm based in central Manchester at St Anne's Square in the Royal Exchange. And I do what I do because I care about people's well-being, mental health. I don't feel that there is enough support still. And therefore, I opened my private practice based on working hours that the NHS and other systems don't overly offer, such as evenings and some of the weekends. And it's been really nice to give people the opportunity to talk through things and have some available when they've struggled to get those in the past.
I think you've made a really important point there about people still needing to access support and services that may not be readily available to them. Only
Yeah,
this morning, I've been looking at figures around loneliness, mental health, isolation in all age groups,
yeah,
but particularly the young people, and then also around disengagement in work as well, which it may be it may be that there are mental health issues behind that as well. So support that you're offering is really needed out there, isn't it?
it is. It is. I feel, especially because we all went through COVID and we saw the devastation there. I really do feel that alongside that pandemic, it did in itself create another layer, almost like a mental health pandemic alongside it.
Ye-
And many are still feeling the effects from that, particularly when you look at loneliness, isolation, grief from having family members and loved ones, friends be unwell or even passed away from COVID. So
Yeah.
there was very much a mental health well-being pandemic created alongside the physical elements of COVID.
Yeah. And I don't feel people ever have had the space or the time to even process COVID.
No.
It's the same for myself. I feel that as
Yeah.
a nurse that works people who had COVID, and I don't feel there's been that time and space. And then when you think about what's happened in the world on top of that, it's all compacted, it's all kind of layered under lots of other different things. So in what ways do you find helping others? What reasons are people coming to you for your services?
There's a wide range. I feel we've all got a story to tell. We've all had our childhood and adolescence, young adult. And what really surprises me is many people come and they're actually not sure where they're trying to get to, but they know that something's wrong. They know that they're carrying something. They don't
Yeah.
feel physically well or mentally well. And they come, and for me, I explain it as almost like a ball of wool that's a bit jumbled and a bit knotted. And if we find the thread, then together we can start to reball that wool, if you will,
Yeah.
and take the knots out of it and get it into a sense of organization, organize our thoughts, look at our feelings, understand what our emotions are and the purpose that they serve. So a lot of people do come along and say, I don't know where to start, but then that will contain anxiety. Anxiety is spoken about a lot, yet there's still quite a lot of misunderstanding about what anxiety is, where that comes from, how it sits in our nervous system, our bodies, how it interferes with our emotional regulation. Many people come and say, I feel anxious,
Yeah.
and it's helping them understand what that actually means and the effect that that has. Depression, trauma. Trauma's another word where there can be quite a lot of misunderstanding. For many, they feel that they haven't experienced trauma because they've not been involved in a war or
Mm.
big accident or something you would obviously call trauma. And when we explained that that is something that can happen in childhood, that is something that can happen at any point where your nervous system is disrupted
Yeah.
and that dysregulates us and that lowers our distress tolerance. Like that there can be so many things that cause trauma. There's a lot of there's a lot of education goes in the first few sessions in terms of helping a person understand what they're experiencing, where that's sitting, and what we can do with that going forward.
Yeah, we can have things in our childhood that we might not necessarily see as trauma,
Yes.
but they are, and
Yeah.
that's why it can remain hidden. That's why it needs to take time to get to that place.
Our own development to understand what that
Mm.
is. As children, we don't have the development to understand, oh, I'm emotionally dysregulated. I am traumatized by these experiences. We
Yeah,
don't have that development. And that development comes much later. And say by even 18, we're referred to as adults, whereas developmentally, our prefrontal lobes, etc., that doesn't happen until almost our mid-20s onwards.
yeah,
So where we're going from childhood to adolescence to adulthood, yet developmentally, I think there's a lot of pressure to have it all figured out by a certain stage.
yeah,
And we're not recognizing the baggage, if you will, the pieces that we've carried through and that shape us and affects our personalities, our identity, our sense of self.
and I suppose, depending on how old you are, we really didn't have this language
No,
maybe 10, 15 years ago, perhaps even further back.
yeah,
They weren't conversations that adults around us were having.
mm,
It
academically maybe, but not
yeah,
in rare in
academically.
everyday life.
Yeah, whereas now it's becoming more people are becoming more aware because that language is more available to us to listen to. So the way how you help others, do you feel that that reflects some of your own journey? Things that you have had experience with?
Yeah, yeah. I feel strongly regarding. I hear quite a lot that therapists become therapists, psychotherapists, specialisms within that field because of our own trauma. And to a certain extent, that's true. I feel the more you are able to relate with people, the more you are able to guide them on their journey. But for me personally, it isn't my trauma that put me on the path of being a therapist. It
Mm,
was seeing what was available to me and what wasn't that shaped a love of psychology from a young age anyway, and understanding that there are many things in place that unfortunately are not overly helpful. And you may go to therapy but not overly feel supported. You may go to therapy and feel that it's a wrong match, but you don't say anything, or you're given a a certain allocation, like 6 sessions. So it was my experiences from having therapy and seeing the different ways that did or didn't help me that started to shape a want to offer this in my way, put my spin on it in a private practice, because I was aware that the NHS is a wonderful thing and I would never disrespect it. But I saw the windows of opportunity that were not available there.
Okay.
And after starting my psychology degree, stumbled upon psychotherapy training and thought this is a way to build something that could fit into the gaps of that.
So, can I ask what were the gaps?
Evenings and weekends.
Right. So it was about accessibility to
A
services.
lot of it was about
Yeah.
accessibility, but also the approach. When people think of therapy, many feel that it is dramatized, like you see on the TV, that it's all clinical, like you see on the TV. Some have said, like, genuinely thought you were going to open the door in a white coat. And for me, that can be really scary after listening to a lot of people, after going through my own journey. So I offer the opposite of that, where Carmen Mez is branded, but I will wear a simple black t-shirt with my logo on and black trousers, never wear shoes in my therapy room, not because of the carpets, but I like to feel as grounded as possible. So when people see that approach, it tends to relax them. And just by having, drinks available and being able to sit on a sofa rather than a chair, little things where it helps relax the person
So it's
into the journey they're gonna embark on.
yeah. So it's a creating a soft environment, isn't it, that allows for open it to feel safe to be able to speak. It's quite interesting that people have the perception of that being in a white coat. It's quite interesting. I've never really noticed on the TV about people wearing white coats, and white coats haven't appeared in like clinical areas for a long, long time, but it is really interesting that people still have those perceptions. So it's really nice that you're changing that and
Yeah.
creating something softer that allows the nervous system to settle, that then allows people to be able to speak in the way that they need to.
Yeah, and if they need a blanket or they need a big cushion or a stress ball, these are the little things that can help a person to feel relaxed enough to open up.
The podcast today is about overcoming limiting beliefs. What has been your own journey in terms of overcoming limiting beliefs?
For me, limiting beliefs start very early on in being born, really. And if we look at attachment theory and we look at different models that talk about those early attachments and feeling emotionally safe with your caregivers or your parents, my journey reflects the attachments where they quickly became anxious attachments
Mm,
due to a lack of emotional needs being met.
okay.
And from there, when you then develop into a child and you go to school and you start mixing with other children, it can quickly form a distorted sense of self where you feel rather than think as a child that you're not good enough or you don't fit in with your peers,
Mm,
that there's something different about you. And they are in themselves limiting beliefs.
mm,
I'm different, I'm not good enough, I'm not included. And I hear it a lot of that disattachment from quite a young age, and it almost becomes you and them.
mm,
And that is due to many reasons where our parents have inherited their own generational traumas, their own limiting beliefs, their limited parental skills. So for me, it was growing up at a time where mental health was talked around, like the words were there, but watching a parent who struggled very much with their own anxieties and the coping mechanisms that they used. So those learnt behaviours were then passed down to me.
Mm.
Being aware that I had a larger family that I didn't really get to see, all these different parts that started to shape my sense of identity, and that wasn't a secure attachment to myself, that was an anxious, fearful attachment to myself and other people. Because
Mm.
for me, growing up, I wasn't sure who was gonna be able to meet my emotional needs or not.
Ye
So there were a lot of self-limiting beliefs when I were younger that I didn't realize were self-limiting beliefs.
yeah, I was going to that was one of the questions I was going to talk to you about, because when we have these feelings around and thoughts around limiting beliefs, we're not always aware that we're having them.
No,
There's just for some reason, we just don't feel right. Would you
very
say
much a
that's fair to
feeling. Yeah,
yeah, it's very much a feeling.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult to articulate too.
It is, yes, yeah. And the main one that I hear is, "I just don't feel good enough." And I can relate to that, especially when younger, and we delve into, well, what does that feeling feel like? And for many, you can't quite put your finger on it, but the main description there is that you don't feel you belong,
Yeah.
you know, to a crowd, to a group, to a
Yeah.
family, etc. And you carry this feeling that disconnects you or throws you into anxiety of worrying about, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I go here? What if? You spend a
Yeah.
long time in anxiety trying to preempt things that are going to happen in order to keep yourself safe because you're preempting where you can or can't go, who you can or can't talk to.
Yeah.
So it's behavior driven,
Mhm.
like self-limiting behaviors, and underneath there are these self-limiting beliefs. And at the roots of that are the needs that have not been met
Yeah.
that are shaping those beliefs. And
Mm.
by the time you come to therapy or by the time someone that explains to you that they're helping you put the psychology and the education to the feelings that you've been feeling to give that overall bird's eye view, that bigger picture of what's happening for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think once you've got that understanding, it does help things click into place, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Things start to make sense.
very much so. It can be overwhelming because a lot can click into place quickly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the lights coming on in a boardroom all at once.
Yeah.
It can be very overwhelming, but then it's
Mm.
about being able to explore those self-limiting beliefs in their entirety. Are there themes?
Mm.
Do they occur within relationships? Do they occur within environments? Do they
Mm.
occur within those that have had health problems, say growing up, or financial problems? And all these different themes then have an effect of your overall sense of self. And that sense of self, those feelings are what you then carry. So they stop you going to college or uni or going to that party where everyone else is because you feel you don't fit in, or they stop you building a career because you feel that you're going to keep getting rejected. So
Yeah.
it starts to filter into all these things. So it's like mental health gardening where we're digging down to the roots of things and looking at if they're helpful or not, and if they're not, replanting and rerouting with
Mhm.
seeds that are gonna grow in a healthier way, a healthier representation of you as a person,
Mm.
rather than the self-limiting beliefs that are sat way down deep in our core.
I I feel that this is one of the reasons, particularly in my work around the caring connection and culture building, is why we need these cultures of care and understanding, because we have so, I'm sure all of us, so there'll be something amongst all of us where this will resonate with, uh, on various different levels. But it's why we need to create these cultures where there's a caring culture, where there's an understanding culture, where we enable people to speak and be seen and heard,
Where it's safe.
where it's safe. Obviously we have professionals like yourself supporting in the right way, but we need a culture that's softer, because we know these things are happening.
Yeah.
With,
It's very much an air when you speak to different generations of people in some way, because it is very prominent if we go back to, say, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, if you keep going back, if you look at societal beliefs or community beliefs, where especially if you're northern, and I'm not saying this isn't in other areas, I see it because we're in the north and we talk about northern culture. Many tell me about that crack on society, get up,
yeah.
crack on, move forward. You know,
Mm,
emotion is weakness. Don't cry,
yeah.
hold it in, don't talk
Mm,
about it, etc. That has divided individuals in itself. And so, on an individual basis, we talk about these things, but collectively, there's been i- the opportunity to speak, to express emotion, is is still quite diminished. So there's still very much that, you know, get up, move on, move forward. A perception of grief only lasts so long, or trauma only lasts so long. There's still a lot of misunderstanding and lack of education as
yeah.
to what we can actually carry as humans in a healthy way, and
Yeah.
how much we cope with as humans that is then managed in more unhealthy ways, because we don't actually know we're dysregulated. We don't actually know it's a stress response or a trauma response. We don't actually
Yeah.
know that what we're doing is learned behavior. We
Yeah.
don't know that we're overwhelmed. And more so, we don't know how to then. So if someone's dysregulated, how do we get to regulated? If someone's
Yeah.
distress tolerance to handle the stuff that life throws is short, how do we raise it? There's still a lot of, yes, I understand this, but what do I do with all this? The practical elements, the
Yeah.
tools, the techniques that pull us out of fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Like, there's so much more understanding, but still so much that isn't practically given by way of tools, techniques,
Yeah.
management.
Uh, so that is quite interesting in terms of our work environments,
Mm,
where we have employee assisted programs. They're almost like tick boxes. I don't want to be critical, because support is there, it's needed, people can access it. It's very prescriptive, isn't it? Right, so you're feeling this way, so we've got this, and that's it, it's done.
yeah,
But actually, it's about time and space to work through this, and that whatever somebody's experiencing, that it doesn't always go away in a flash, that it's something that
yeah,
sometimes takes its time to work
it,
through.
yeah. It's deeper. It's deeper, and you know, EAPs respectively have a part in today's society. Many things cannot be dealt with in a solution focused way in that moment. They
Yeah,
have deeper roots.
yeah,
That there are layers, if you will. Maybe in the moment, yes, there is a value there for offering a solution focused approach. But personally, there isn't enough time there isn't enough time with each person. And in the corporate world, things can be quite systematic. So it's being able to merge corporate with care, if you will, that
Mm.
crossover and that nice blend of corporate and holistic, which
Yeah.
I feel is very niche
Mm.
and something that I'm passionate about continuing to create. I've worked in the corporate setting and the holistic setting, and the importance is huge to be able to blend those worlds together, which is why I started doing the events and workshop
Yeah.
anyway, so that whether it be the public or whether it be corporate, there's the opportunity to go and talk about what anxiety in the workplace actually looks and feels like, what menopause in the workplace or in the wider public looks like and feels like. Are the words, is the language fitting the feelings? So there's still a lot to be done, and I'm on the bandwagon, if you will, of helping get that done.
Yeah, amazing. And at what point did you realize about your own self-limiting beliefs? What kind of woke you up to them or made you aware of them? Maybe, yeah, made you aware of them.
I feel that when you're younger, who hasn't spoke to someone that says, when I was X age, I was doing this, this, and this, or when I look back at 18, 19, 20-year-old me, you're mortified because of some of the things that you've done. And these things, we laugh and joke about them and we're like, oh, I won't want to live my 20s again. But actually, the behaviors you're displaying, decisions you're making, they all come from that poor sense of self, those limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough, so let me just settle for this. Or that person may shout at me, but they're kind to me also. So that's better than nothing. Let me just take that. So there's many things that we do when we're younger that show those self-limiting beliefs. And I'm included in that with everyone else. We've all got those things where we look back and absolutely cringe.
Yeah.
And those are the signs when I look back of those self-limiting beliefs, those self-limiting behaviors. I think when you become a parent yourself, then you see it 10 times. Genuinely starts to show the the self-limiting beliefs within that, because you carry that through. Am I a good enough parent?
Mm.
You know, am I giving my child a good enough childhood? So
Yeah.
again, I carried that feeling for a long time. I knew that there were things going on, but it wasn't until I became a parent where I saw it so much more.
Right.
And you can prepare so much to become a parent, but I feel having your own child really does reflect on yourself and
Mm.
the experiences and trauma and self-limiting beliefs you have to work through to be that parent who is emotionally truly available to their child and
Right.
to their partners, families, etc.
And I suppose we've touched upon it a little bit already, but in what ways they were impacting you? So you've talked about in terms of behaviors, were they actually preventing you from doing things, from moving forwards, from achieving?
I would say, especially up to my 30s, I suffered with crippling anxiety,
Okay.
and that was ran on the back of the self-limiting beliefs, the behaviours where I myself struggled to overcome the fact that I'd made certain decisions, done certain things. The anxiety came from con- constantly worrying whether I'd upset someone, whether I was doing something wrong, whether I'd not done something good enough. I when I was coming out of college and applying to uni, I actually didn't go first time round because I didn't feel that I was good enough to go. Um, and that anxiety started manifesting into every part of my life. So when my first child was born, I spent a long time worrying just about our existence,
Mm.
about I've brought a child into the world, but what's the state of the world? I brought a child into the world, but one day I'm not going to be here because I'm going to die. And then
Mm.
he's going to die. And then it quickly generalized into crippling anxiety,
Yeah.
overplaying every conversation I'd ever had with anyone, second
Mm.
guessing myself all the time, constant reassurance check-in. And that's a lot for other people to carry when they see you like that,
Yeah.
because it's exhausting keep reassuring someone. It's exhausting keep asking for the reassurance, keep gauging
Yeah.
the reassurance. And now there's a lot more understanding of, well, this links to that and that links to that. But
Yeah.
at the time, you are literally trying to survive with this, crippling anxiety that affects your thought processes, your feelings are all over the show. And it becomes physical where you don't know what it's like to not have a tight chest, where you don't know what it's like to not feel overwhelmed. It
Mm.
becomes a sense of norm.
And also, I've felt this myself, but there's something about stepping out of that feeling of not being good enough
Yes.
that it's actually when it's been with you for a long time, it feels like a mountain to climb to actually get out of it.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't quite remember what led to being stepping out of that. Are you able to explain just stepping out of that?
My own experience came after my marriage had ended,
Mhm.
and it very much felt like sink or swim.
Okay.
And I was acutely aware that I had children and that I had to navigate a new sense of self. And don't get me wrong, like the father of my children has very much been there to co-parent all the way through. But I was mum, I was Shemaine. Where was my sense of self? How do we form this new norm? What's holding me back? What are the things I need to do? And by that time, I'd had therapy for a long time, on and off, in various different aspects of CBT, psychotherapy, different models and whatnot. And the therapist that I was currently working with at that time was amazing. She really did spend the time to help me delve. When I cried, she'd ask me what the tears represented. What was that feeling? She really worked with me. And I'd got to that point where there was a shift. There was a shift where it was like I am responsible for these children. I'm responsible for myself. What needs can I start meeting for myself
Yeah.
in order to feel more securely attached to myself? To give me that internal compass, if you will. What are my values? What are my morals and my values that give you that internal compass to work from?
Yeah.
What are the ones that I've not been meeting for myself? So it is very much that internal work that, right, okay, we're not going to swim, we're going to swim. And I think a lot of it came from when I applied to uni and did an access course with psychology and then built it from there. That gave me a real sense of self. That was
Yeah.
something that I remember doing in college, and I was like, that was always like a bit of me.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
the education and being able to put theory and, well, education overall to the feelings helped me then start to really articulate and tackle the self-limiting beliefs that
Mm.
actually I'm not good enough. Might feel like I'm on my own with this thing, but this is such a common thing.
Mm.
What makes it such a common thing? And then it was the unpacking of it from there. And it gave
See,
me a sense of pride because my children saw me learning things and would ask me questions about it, and that gave me the articulation to be able to explain it to them. You know, definitely nowhere near perfection, but definitely the intention
Yeah.
to break the shackles of the self-limiting beliefs, to break the shackles of the anxiety, to stand up for myself.
Mm.
Because, yeah, do you know what? I've done stupid things, made mistakes, but we all have in some way, shape, or form when we look back.
Yeah.
And did I need to constantly be in a cycle of worrying about these things
Mm.
in
And
order to manage these things?
yeah, and there's something about confidence building, isn't there, when you
Yeah,
learn something and
yeah,
then being able to explain it to somebody else.
yeah.
There's something very confident, affirming about that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It does affirm that, hey, here's me. This isn't about perfection, which is
mhm.
another maybe unwritten societal feeling, not being good enough, and that actually we're all individuals, we're all human. If the intention is there to be good enough, to be aware, to learn, to educate yourself on things you weren't taught, if all that intention is there, that in itself makes a person good enough.
And so, in what other ways did have that understanding, that knowledge help you begin to rebuild your identity?
It helped me understand the roots of my own anxiety. It helped me understand the developmental stages within childhood and how they were stunted. It
Mm.
helped me understand societal norms and individual experiences. It helped me understand what expectations of myself I'd put myself under, and whether these expectations were actually a thing or something I'd created based on how you're spoken to, the narrative around you. So understanding was a big element for me. And getting a bit older as well.
Yeah.
We do fully then develop into adults, and there is a lot more emotional awareness and therefore a lot more emotional maturity. So it was the fragmentations that started to come together to give a bigger picture, and I was able to piece things together, and it gave me a more realistic sense of who I was, how I've been shaped, the younger me to the more adult me, the path I wanted to be on in terms of fulfilling those needs from the field I wanted to work in, and that sense of self and that security. So there's a lot of creating platforms for safety, security, stability. I was starting to meet those needs. And that wasn't to say that when I was married, I didn't have that safety, security. But as individuals, we have our own journey, regardless of being in a marriage or a partnership. We have an individual journey that we are entitled to take that leap and jump on that boat and learn to swim for ourselves.
Yeah, so it's an anchoring into the self, isn't it? A
Exactly.
coming
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
yeah, a grounding into the self. And so, how has all this journey and everything that you've learned allowed you to speak more and you speak as part of your work? And how has it supported you to speak up and talk about your journey and speak your truth?
By learning that it's okay to have boundaries.
Okay.
It's okay to say no and it not be the end of the world. You know, that you don't have to do things for everyone else in order to be accepted.
Yeah.
That actually other people don't want you to do everything for them, that it's okay to say that I want to look after me, I want to look after my children. So
Mm.
boundaries, becoming more confident in what I know and what I know I want to apply to my life, becoming confident in my intentions of what I would like to show my children, what I would like to include in my life, being giving permission to yourself to have a voice,
Mm.
and in doing so, you can tackle bigger feelings like shame and guilt, you know, and regret, and understand all these different elements that come with living this life by giving it the understanding and giving yourself permission and having the courage to speak about these things and apply it in such a way where you're then qualified to educate other people. That in itself becomes awesome.
Yeah.
And that has spurred me on over the past decade to really help other people understand their shame, their guilt, their regret, being able to learn to let these things go. The art of learning to let go of a lot of things that we've carried through as baggage, because that's really, really important in order for you to grow, in order for you to take the next step in something, in order for you to feel that you are enough to have made mistakes, overcome them, and be able to create something healthy for you going forward, that you're allowed to have that.
Mm.
You know, giving yourself permission to grow is everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's where your self-confidence, self-esteem is, isn't it? Allowing yourself to grow and build. And so what is your plans for the future, for Calming Minds? What have you got coming up?
So it's been really exciting these past couple of years in starting to create workshops where there's been four now, and we've looked at self-limiting beliefs. We've looked at what values are and how you work out what your values are. Looking at that internal compass of yourself and using it as a guide.
Yeah.
Yep. And we have looked at, well, I've personally done 18 months menopause training, because that was another area that I feel is really unspoken. The words are being spoken, but the understanding and how they connect to you and your individual experiences are the things that I'm advocating more. I'm 43 now, so I'm very aware of my own journey going into those stages. So I've been talking about things that are not fully spoken about on a one-to-one basis when we look at the feelings and the emotions behind that, the psychological changes. So the workshops have had different themes, and we've had food, and we've had fake prosecco, and we've had gift bags, and we've been on a rooftop, and it's been really exciting to grow these workshops, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. So our next one is in July, and that's going to be quite an intimate group of 12. And then we're doing our first ever retreat in August, which is going to be amazing, because now we've got guest speakers such as yourself, and we've got sound baths, and we've got beautiful surroundings and beautiful countryside.
Mm.
And I've been networking a lot and made some amazing connections, and actually met some friends, which has been gorgeous to grow organic connections. So in terms of workshops and events, that's all very exciting. We've got a menopause one coming on in October. So aside from the private practice, I really want to build a sense of community and connection and collaboration, because I've met so many amazing people that we're working to give each other opportunities to build on the education and the understanding of subjects where words are being spoken: trauma, anxiety, menopause, self-limiting beliefs, but the depth of it, the roots of it, the understanding it, the psychology element, the health element, the emotional element, they're truly being spoken about and understood, and people have time and space to resonate and to share their experiences. And then they are going away and they're talking about what they've just experienced at the workshop and events to their friends and family, and it's growing from there. So that's where it's currently at. And that's where the excitement is, that from 2 years ago, having a very first small workshop, we're now at the point of growing and collaborating and inviting more and more people. And who doesn't love a bit of countryside and a little bit of time out in a different location. So that's where we're at.
It sounds amazing. You do incredible, important work. And thank you for your time and energy on the podcast. It's been a joy to speak to you.
Thank you for having me.
That was a really interesting conversation with Shemaine. We know that people are struggling. We know that the world is struggling. Between 2020, 2021, and 2022 and 2023, mental health referrals for young people aged 20 to 24 accounted for 45% of the overall disease burden, with dying by suicide being the second leading cause of death. A UK-wide stress survey found that 74% of adults have felt so stressed at some point over the past year that they've felt overwhelmed and unable to cope. The source was the Mental Health Foundation. And we also know that boys and young men are in crisis. Having read the Lost Boys report, the Centre for Social Justice, we know that loneliness has risen globally in all age groups. And with the latest State of Global Workforce 2024 report for Gallup highlighting that 90% of the UK workforce were disengaged and are quiet quitting. And then on top of that, we have the political landscape, both nationally and globally, adding to people's heightened awareness and stress. And at some point, we have to come together and create a better connected world. We have to consider a new way of seeing, thinking, and doing things to create a culture of care and connection that is values driven from a deeper place that considers everybody's ability to thrive collectively, to unpick and understand the issues at a deeper level and find collective solutions. It's one of the reasons why I have this podcast, and it's also the reason why I have a one-day event in Manchester on the 11th of July, 10 o'clock till 4:30. We cover 3 great workshops: creating safe spaces and what it means to be safe, understanding the nervous system, techniques and why they work, and creating a culture of care and connection in a world that feels fragmented and disconnected. If you're interested in that event, please check the show notes. The details are there. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. If you think this episode will help someone else, please leave a review. For more about Shemaine's work, please visit the show notes along with the details for the event that I'm holding on the 11th of July in Manchester. If you have any questions, please visit Andrea L. Evans' Facebook page, and remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.